So, let's get ready for the man, the myth, the individual who's bringing this morning's welcome address. Let's get everybody up off their feet for Asher Mathew.
Hey everybody, good morning, and I want to welcome you all home. We wanted to create a place that partnerships leaders, biz dev folks, channel folks could just call home, right? And I'm really excited that we were able to come together as a community and do this. What a fantastic day one we've had. Yesterday we started off with the 5K run. Justin, Kelly, and Brian, thank you so much for organizing that. We had training day, we had an awesome networking reception. I want to give a shout out to the folks from Workspan for leading us with the welcome reception. And so today is day 2, technically, and we wanted to create an amazing lineup of content and speakers for you all, and so bear with us as we go into details. Just a couple of housekeeping items. One, if you have any questions, post them in the Slack channel. That's our conference app. And then for the folks who are standing in the back, we have tons of seating up front if you guys just want to come up and sit down. So let's go to the next slide. So one of the questions I got asked yesterday was why Catalyst, right? And why now? And one of the things that's important and close to partnership leaders is that everything that we do is rooted in our members. And so when our members ask us things to do, we just figure out how to do them. And so Catalyst was actually just born out of a conference call that Krista and I were on, and then we were just sitting there thinking, hey, what do we do next for our members? And so the idea came around putting it in real life conference. Now, the problem was that we didn't know whether whether COVID would still be around or we would be done with it. And so we took a big bet. The big bet paid off. Thank you to all of you for creating this conference with us. It is going to be the home for partnership leaders, people in channels, alliances, biz dev, and creators, which is what all of you are, right? We just have not exercised that muscle yet, but soon we will all become creators. And like Chessie said, a lot of us will actually become operators. So a couple of attendee stats. This is really impressive. 50% of the folks in the room are leaders. This is the largest conference for leaders and partnerships. 40% of you are women, which I'm thrilled that we could actually do that. So if you're a women in partnerships, thank you to you. Also, when we started this project, the hypothesis was that most of the conference would be our members, but all the outreach that we've all done, all the videos that you all created, actually brought a lot more people in partnerships into this conference. And so 50% of the people that are attending are our members, but the other 50% are not our members today. So we've done an amazing job of reaching out to the community and bringing them together. But this next stat is actually even more impressive. In one day, at least off the meetings that I know, we're going to do 220 meetings today. That's a heck of a lot of meetings. So all the sponsors should be happy. Well, on the sponsor side, when we started this project, we were like, hey, if we have 4 or 5 sponsors, it'll be great, And we ended up with all of these sponsors. So I really, really appreciate all the support that you all are giving to us, and especially to Reveal, who actually partnered with us in putting this thing together. As you know, partnership leaders always has to do something with another company so that we can actually keep the spirit of partnerships together. But to all of our sponsors, thank you for bringing this conference alive. This is, again, like the speakers in front of me said, a start. We have a lot of things to accomplish in this decade of destiny, decade of destiny for sure, but decade of ecosystems that Jay is talking to us about. But before I go into answer the one question that everybody asks me, which is what is PL? Let me actually bring up Chris, Ty, and Jay to talk to you a little bit about the origin story, what's happening in the market, and where we're going, and then I'll actually talk about what is partnership leaders. So Chris, Ty, Jay, come on over.
Awesome.
You want a clicker? All right.
Thank you, appreciate it. Hey everybody, Chris Samila, so thrilled to be here with everybody. This is amazing to actually be in person after the last few years of building what is the world's largest community of partnership professionals online. So the sort of how we got here component is really important because as Asher mentioned, everybody else mentioned, we're building still. And so I just want to jump back in time to give some context because I think it's amazing when you look at what's possible when we actually all come together. So about 4 years ago, I had the good fortune to join the company called Full Story as the VP of Partnerships. Love that team. It was also terrifying because it was the first time I'd had that senior of a role. And so I had some conviction that I knew how to do some things in partnerships, but I knew there was a lot of stuff I maybe wasn't quite sure was best practice. Like here's a good example of me doing partner attribution. So we decided, all right, let's get an email thread going with a handful of people. There's about 17 people on email thread, and this was like actually the beginning of partnership leaders. And so there was a handful of folks I respected in the space, and we started talking about best practices and how to do things, and we realized pretty quickly, like, email's not awesome. Let's switch over to Slack. That'll be more efficient, and we can bring in more people into the conversation. One important component to this is we also, one of the original members of the community was Gilad Zuberi. Gilad was at Content Square. They were a direct competitor with Full Story. But Gilad and I had known each other from previous companies, and we said, hey, when we talk about partnerships in the community, in public, like we're gonna help each other. We're not gonna share confidential information, but all boats rise when we all work together. And so this set a really important precedent of like, we are all in this as one collective industry. And so the community started to grow really quickly. The beauty about Slack is you can go back in history and look at any message from the last 4 years in the community. And I posted in the first week we got going, sort of a conversation about like why we were all here. It was to network, it was to learn, it was to get better at our craft and partnerships, and that holds true today as much as it did 4 years ago. And so Tai and Asher, they jumped on board as key people to help bring this to life. They got really passionate about what was possible as a community. And so from about 2018 in December to 2019, we added about 250 people. It was totally free. The goal was just like, let's see what happens if we build this thing. And it grew pretty steadily. It's about almost 500 people by March 2020, but we all remember what happened in March 2020. And on the backside of that, because we couldn't actually meet in person anymore, the community exploded. We went to 900 people in the community. But it was still free, and Slack's business model is amazing. Our messages started disappearing because once you get to 10,000 messages, things go away. And so we realized, like, this isn't great. But I couldn't expense a $50,000 Slack fee to Full Story, so we're like, we probably need to charge for membership to make this thing keep going. And so this was actually a really important component because we dropped down to 100 paying members. And I will be forever thankful to those people because they came out of pocket in most cases to actually build this thing with us. And if you look at where we're at today, we're at 1,100 paying members in Partnership Leaders, and these people are building this thing with us. I just want to call out also some people that are even going above and beyond what normal members are doing to help us build. These folks on the screen right now, these are partnership professionals that have full-time day jobs. They're also carving out nights and weekends to build partnerships with leaders with us. We also have a full team of contractors that work around the clock as well. So I just want to give a huge round of applause to all the people building this thing. Thanks to their help, in the last few years, we've launched a member directory, a job board, the ability to do actually like buying of technology and services. We have a whole ecosystem catalog in Partnership Leaders. We also have a really high focus on trying to help people actually find jobs. So there's a whole open to work initiative that we launched so you get free access to the community if you've lost your job in partnerships. There's a lot of amazing stuff we're building. But this is just the beginning. As this is going to be the narrative you hear all day long, is the people in this room are going to build the future of what partnerships looks like for the entire decade ahead. And so I wanted to pass it over to Asher here in a few minutes to talk about what that looks like from our side at Partnership Leaders. But first I wanted to have Tai Rattigan talk about the larger context of what's happening around us in the larger economy, because that really correlates to the things we're going to talk about here today during the conference. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it.
All right. Wow, it's amazing to see everyone here today. I think, you know, when Chris was talking about December, when we were really kind of kicking things off with partnership leaders. I remember exactly where I was at that moment in time. I was in my mum's living room. I'd gone back to England for Christmas, and I was having this probably 2-hour-long conversation with Chris, which was like in the middle of the night, my time, pretty much. And I was just so excited about what we were talking about and the opportunity that it brought, because I think everyone can agree that it's really hard to do this job. You know, it's like incredibly hard. And so just hats off to Chris. Chris is like the most selfless, high humility person. He puts so much time and effort into making this event happen, but just making lives easier for everyone in this community. So please give it up for Chris. So if you don't know me, my name's Tai. I worked with Chris at Optimizely. I know there's some Optimizely folks in the room, new and old. I then built the partner team at Amplitude after that. And then I spent a little bit of time in venture capital, and much to a similar kind of journey to what Francesco was talking about as well. And I actually got roped back into working in partnerships again recently, and I run the partner team at a company called Deal. If you're in the partnership leaders community, you've probably seen me talking about the economy quite often. It's a little bit of an obsession of mine. Also, you've probably seen Partnership Leaders Investments, which is a VC program that Kirath, if you haven't met him already, you should say hello, and I run, where we invest in startups in the space as a collective in the community. So something really cool that we do. So you can probably gather from that, I have like a little bit of an interest in finance. I started my career in finance at American Express in 2008. And hands up who was working during the Great Recession in 2008. We're dating ourselves a little bit. So there's something, what do they say? Like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. And there are some things that are rhyming at the moment with 2008, I think we can all say. And so I thought it was important for us to talk a little bit about that. Like, we're going through a new environment in tech at the moment from an economic standpoint. And I think we're in a real opportunity mode here right now to either, survive in this environment, which, would be great as well, but for many of us, an opportunity to thrive. So what are we looking at right now? Well, so I told you I was an early employee at Amplitude. You can see Amplitude on this chart. It's a very sad time for me at the moment. Amplitude's, I've got a laser right here. So Amplitude is here. This in blue was Amplitude's next 12 months multiple at its peak, and this is where it's at the moment. So sad times for me and all of my Amplitude colleagues. But why am I talking about that? Well, this looks a lot like the macro environment in 2008. If anyone read the note that Sequoia put out at that time, rest in peace, good times, looks a lot similar. And what happened in that time was tech companies drastically reduced their multiples in the market, and really like things soured in general for tech companies. Why does this happen? We could talk about it all day, but really, like as interest rates increase, people get less interested in growth stocks. They get more interested in profitability. So what have we seen? We've seen median multiples reduce from, around 51% all the way down to almost 51x all the way down to 9x. This is massive. Also, what we've seen is that public market investors are looking for net income over revenue growth. All of us in this room, I assume, have worked at companies that in the last 5 to 10 years have purely been focused on growth as the primary indicator of success. So why am I here? Why am I giving this this macro talk? Well, I think that this has massive implications for all of the companies that we work at, and honestly, massive implications for all of us that work on those teams. And I think one of my favorite sayings is adversity can cause some to break and others to break records. And I think that we all have like a real opportunity to not just survive in this situation, but thrive. So this is like the public market situation that we're in at the moment. Why is this important? Well, the private market, many of us work at private tech companies. I would imagine probably upwards of 85, 90% of the group that are here today. And the private market dramatically lags the public market by like 12 to 18 months. So hands up if the company that you work at did a funding round in the last 2 years. Okay, so a large amount of the folks here. That was an awesome time to raise money. So congratulations to all of you and your founders. That was a great thing. Probably very high multiples. The reality is that, as you can see here, the number of deals that VCs are doing at the moment versus that time has significantly decreased. Also, the amount of capital deployed has decreased even more. It means that the companies that we all work at that raised money are going to find it a lot harder to raise money in the coming 1 to 2 years. And so what does that mean for us? Well, it means that companies are going to have to focus on free cash flow and profitability. They're going to have to get really, really, really tight on generating revenue and cutting costs. Many of us have been impacted by layoffs already, which is why we started the Open to Work program. Me personally, I was working at a great company that ran out of money in the last 6 to 12 months also. And so we have an opportunity here to not just survive in this environment, but actually thrive, which is what we wanted to talk about today, because we have people in the room who have already been impacted by this environment, but we basically have like a 6 to 12 month opportunity to get on top of this. So we talk about writing the next chapter of partnerships, and I'm really excited for the Reveal folks to talk about this a little bit more. But I feel like the next chapter of partnerships is as the revenue center. If you think about partnerships as a business, hands up in this room who works in partnerships and their partnership opportunities are the highest converting opportunities in the business. Almost everyone. Yeah, the same thing for me at Deal. Our opportunities convert at 60%. The rest of the business converts at 30%, right? Also, partnership business, lowest cost to acquire customers, for sure. Also, best user retention rates. Probably everyone here has seen that if a customer is using a partner integration or working with a services partner, they're significantly more likely to retain. And so these are basically the most important metrics in a tech company, right? But historically, we've also mostly shied away from having a focus on revenue. We'll talk a lot about partner influence today. We'll talk a lot about marketplace growth, ecosystem health metrics. These things are all important, and I don't want to get away from those. But historically, we've shied away from having a strong focus on revenue. And so something that I want to encourage everyone to do today is to really think with urgency about how we can take this amazing progress that we're all making, and in our heads knowing, hey, times are already tough in the economy and they're going to get a lot more tough, and shift from, hey, okay, well, how do we survive in this environment to how do we thrive in this environment? And really taking this advantage that we already have and focusing on the revenue that we can drive. And so I would urge everyone today, as you're kind of going through and listening to these amazing talks that we're going to have, to think about your plan for Q4 and how you can think about ways to really dive into revenue generation and aggressively prioritize and talk about revenue in your business. I would also recommend working together, meeting people today, and setting plans in place for how you can optimize and scale your teams for efficiency as you kind of travel on that path to free cash flow and profitability. And then the last thing is, look to the future. You're going to hear from everyone about where the puck is going. There's that saying about skating to where the puck is going. I think that that's important, but also hold yourselves and each other accountable to focus on the present. Because where we're at right now is we need to generate revenue for our companies today. And if we can do that in a really effective way, then we will thrive in this environment. And so I'm really excited for people to take this conference to have actionable outcomes for next week, put it in your Q4 plans, and for us to really thrive in an environment that's going to be really challenging. So with that, I'm excited to hand it back to Asha, who's going to talk a little bit more about partnership leaders, what's coming up in the day-to-day, and how you can all capitalize on that. Thank you.
You can always rely on Tai to keep us in check of what's important. All right, so this question has come up over and over and over again, and so I'm really thrilled and excited that I have the opportunity to actually share with you, like, what is PL, right? And, you know, in some ways, we've been building this thing over the last 3 years, and when I say we, it's like collective we, right? And so ultimately, where we've landed is, in the market, there was a need for a platform for leaders first, then their teams, then the tech companies and the services company around us to all come together and succeed, right? And so we started this thing with the community, but then people needed help with jobs. People needed help with building their brands. People needed help with positioning themselves internally in their organizations for success. We have done tons of, I mean, God only knows how many job offers I've helped negotiate, you know? And you know, like there's things where we have created content for teams to take back to their leadership teams. You know, we've actually done presentations to executive teams on partnerships. So what we have created is a whole lot of features for people to be personally and professionally successful by using our platform. Tai mentioned a little bit about the investment arm. You know, we are treating people how to invest in companies, and hopefully in the future we can do a lot more investments because that allows us to get to financial freedom. And so we've created a platform designed with your success in mind, and we wanted to do it around the world. So quick show of hands, how many people here are from APAC? Okay, fantastic. So this is how it starts. How many folks from EMEA? Wow, okay, fantastic. And I guess the rest are all from the US or North America? Fantastic. So as we grow and grow and grow, one of the top things that we've been asked for is we want more focus in EMEA. And again, because we are member-led, everything that we do has to come through one of our members. And so I'm thrilled that one of our own is actually going to now go take us to EMEA. And so I want to give a shout out to Alexis. Alexis, can you rise and so we can recognize you? So Alexis is actually going to be the regional leader for PL in EMEA. He is the resource and is going to champion us there. He also has a special message for all of us, and we're going to actually launch that message in our Slack channel today and then later on our social channels. The next one I'm actually super excited about as well, because early in PL's journey, we got called out for not representing women enough. And so we did a really hard look at ourselves, and we said we really need to help women in partnerships. And so these ladies have actually stepped up and helped us, and are going to take this charter further. But 3 of them specifically are taking the responsibility of creating this environment where women in partnerships in PL can do better. So I want to actually recognize Kelly. Kelly, could you rise? And Joni, if you're around. And Jennifer. And unfortunately, Jennifer couldn't be here because she had a small accident or maybe a big accident, but like she's fine. She actually broke her wrist and she was trying to do cartwheels. Just kidding. The next one is another big announcement for us, because with all the macro trends, we realized that we needed to do a lot more to help those who are looking for jobs. And so we created this Open to Work initiative, but we went a little bit further, right? We said, not only are we just going to help people find jobs, but we're going to help them find the right jobs. And what that means is, for a lot of us, is we've been in places or in companies where it was just a mismatch, right? It was not a good culture fit. There was not a good culture fit between the company and us, or there was not a good culture fit between the other executives and us, or the board. So we are bringing Flywheel Search Group on so that they can create content that helps people understand which opportunities they're going to take. And for the companies that are looking for partnership leaders, who need help finding the right person for them, they're going to help us with that. So this jobs program that we have is just going to grow. It's actually going to explode, because that's almost the number one channel in PL. And so we're excited that another firm is partnering with us to help create better executives in the marketplace. And so I'm excited. The folks from Flywheel Search Group couldn't be here today, but they also have a special message for us that we will launch in our Slack channel. So with that, it begs the question, well, where is PL going to go, right? And there's a couple announcements later on in the day I'm going to make, but to give everybody context, and I know there's a bunch of analysts, thanks Jay for being here too, that love people, process, technology, and data. And so PL's role is actually going to be in the people and the process bucket. We're going to do more services, more features, more content, whatever it takes to help all of us create a better environment for our people and build scalable processes to make us successful. That's where PL will play. We will partner with tech companies like Reveal and Crossbeam and everybody else who's our sponsors, and we will partner with data companies like Demandbase and ZoomInfo. And so we'll bring all of this stuff together, again, to accelerate what's already happening in the marketplace, but more importantly, doing things that help you become successful. And so that is what PL is. It's more than a community. It's actually a platform for success. All right, I'm going to give it over to Jay to help us understand what the future holds for us and where do we take this platform and what's the opportunity to become successful with it. Jay?
Well, thank you very much. And for those of you that have been standing for 30 minutes, I count 40 chairs here in the first 4 rows. If you don't want to keep standing. So just going forward, yesterday I kind of led off on the decade of the ecosystem, and I wanted to bring it back into numbers. So we're all asked, our neighbors, our friends, people that we know, what's a channel? What's a partner? What's an alliance? What ecosystem? What do you do? Well, I always respond, the first way I respond is in the $94 trillion world economy, 75% flows indirectly. You bought your last car from a dealer. You bought your last TV from a retailer. You bought your last jar of peanut butter from a grocer. Almost everything you do in your personal and professional life go through others, many of them local entrepreneurs. So you might have bought a computer from Dell direct in the 1990s. Dell just reported $104 billion in revenue, 58% indirect. I got to ask Michael Dell when they crossed over the 50 mark, the question, because it was 13 years to the day that he wrote a memo internally that leaked that said direct was a revolution, not a religion. They got to 33% of the market quickly, plateaued, had to take the company private. He almost lost his job until they went into retail, until they went into resell. You might have bought your car insurance from Geico direct. Geico sells more insurance through local agents and brokers now than it sells direct. Peloton this morning, one of the darlings of the pandemic, is now an indirect company as of this morning. You can buy a Peloton on Amazon. This is part of the world economy, but it's a major change. These commercial transactional channels have been around for thousands of years. We're moving into new swim lanes and partnerships that have nothing to do with money changing hands. And that's what we're doing here. That's what we're doing moving forward. These are the best-selling books now on Amazon. When I said that 76% of CEOs in every industry, in every size business, in every country of the world, thinks their current business model will be unrecognizable in 5 years, ecosystems were the #1 reason why. These are the business models. They're moving to subscription consumption. They're moving from direct to consumer in different ways into value-based and usage-based pricing. They're moving into product-led growth. Many of you in SaaS companies are getting pressure from your boards, based on the success of Zoom and Slack and Dropbox and others that started that way. And the explosion of marketplaces. Marketplaces grew more in the first 3 months of the pandemic than the last 10 years combined. 1/3 the US economy runs on marketplaces. As analysts, we were kind of watching post-pandemic. Is this going to plateau and level? It still goes up. In the 30 different categories we're watching, they're all climbing on marketplace activity. So let's jump out of tech for a minute and talk cars. Well, when I said yesterday that every company in every industry is becoming a tech company, guess what? All 62 manufacturers of cars have committed 100% all in to electric. So all 365 brands of cars you can buy are going electric in the next 10 years. So one of the most vocal people, the CEO of Ford, is looking forward. This changes our go-to-market. This changes how people order. This changes how we inventory. For 100 years, from Ford's Model T on, this completely revolutionizes everything. The North Star in this industry now is a computer company, a tech company called Tesla, and how they go to market, how they manage their business. They sell a computer on wheels, and Ford has to transition. They broke the company at a half, and half the company's committed on EV. The other half of the company got 3,000 layoffs announced yesterday. White-collar layoffs, people that are not ready for partnerships. And so he's out on stage talking about people ordering an F-150, which has been the best-selling car in America for 43 years, in their bunny slippers. Pretty funny. New ways of doing business. Well, the dealers are a little bit freaked out. And if you know anything about car dealers in your local town, they're pretty powerful people. Multi-generational wealth over 100 years. These people get senators and congressmen elected. They run the Chamber of Commerce. They're the most powerful one of the most powerful lobbies in Washington. And they've regulated and legislated that you have to buy a car from a dealer. That's why Tesla had to open up these little stores inside retail outlets. So I was freaking out before I'd even shaven that day. All this talk about direct, all this talk about this new world, because guess what comes after electric cars? Self-driving. What comes right on the heels of self-driving? Transportation as a service. So I now have a subscription. It's not going to be with the local dealer. It's going to be with Ford or Mercedes or BMW. And when I'm going on a date with my wife, who's in the front row, Ford is going to send me a Mustang. When I'm going to Home Depot, which I did this weekend, they're going to send me an F-150. When I'm going to the airport, they're going to send me a big cube van so I can sit in a lazy boy and work on my computer. It's transportation as a service. This is the future of the industry. Here's a little curveball that they were thrown. If you watch Apple's event this summer, 79% of new car buyers will only buy a car if it has CarPlay. So I don't care about the design, the style, what size rims, what color it comes. Literally, if it doesn't have this technology integration, I'm not going to buy it. Guess what just happened to software? The number one decision criteria of customers is around integrations now and how open and API first your company is. The cost, the support, all the other things that we used to be worried about have fallen down the list. Can you imagine a 100-year-old industry being disrupted by what you see on your dashboard? That's CarPlay version 1, which is just the little iPad in the middle. CarPlay version 2 takes over your dash from window to window up to the windshield. Everything becomes electronic. Your speedometer is run by Apple. So this economy, this new global channel, like I said, every company's becoming a tech company. Every professional services firm in the world is becoming a tech company. In many companies, the head of marketing spends more money on technology than the head of technology, the CIO. So who serves? The digital agencies. So 50 years ago, they were Mad Men. 20 years ago, they helped build your website. 10 years ago, they helped you get on page 1 of Google. They're doing the integration, the implementations. 78% of digital agencies are now tech agencies. You have to go to page 4 on their website to find out they'll still do creative and concierge type of work. 81% of accountants are now tech services companies. Every company in every industry is coming in. There are millions, you can't even read this, there are millions of now partners available in your market TAM. Why? Because your average customer has 7 partners today they trust. The average vendor knows 1 or less of those 7. That's how expansive the partnership conversation is now getting. And these are the 6 swim lanes. So yes, we were maniacally focused for 40 years on the point of sale. Everything, the gross to nets, the front end margins, the back end, everything we did as channel leaders for 40 years is literally at land. So we underpaid half our partners that did more work. We overpaid the other half that just collected the order. We got reminded by our direct sales reps every time that happened. We didn't, by the way, when they closed a deal in their sleep and they didn't know about it, we didn't hear about it because the partner did everything. But the point is there's 28 moments when you buy a car, when you buy software, when you buy anything that's considered that you move through before making that point of sale. Those 28 moments in a post-cookie world is absolutely a partner challenge. I can't go up and buy up cookies anymore and find out what my customer's doing in their early moments. I need to go partner with those people, attribute that work, share data at that work. And you're seeing many of the companies here sponsor that do that very particular work. Land. Remember I talked about the growth of marketplaces? 24% of marketplace purchases is a partner pressing buy on behalf of the customer. It's not an indirect sale, but guess who's driving the ship? These are the things. Expand. Subscription consumption, that's the first 30 days. Now you drive adoption, integration, stickiness, upsell, cross-sell, enrichment, all the things you do every 30 days forever for a customer for life. Those are the 7 partners they trust. You need to know a few of those partners, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. The more you know, the better you're going to retain. Microsoft is bringing on 400 new partners every single day. If you want to question why they've outgrown AWS and Google for 10 straight quarters, it's an army of people endorsing them at each of these steps. Underlying the tech alliances, the strategic alliances, and the business alliances. What I love about partnership leaders is I'm obsessed about what people read, where they go, the people they follow, the spheres of influence in our lives. I could tell you when you bought your last car, when you read the magazine, you watched those YouTube videos, you went on social media, you talked to your neighbor. I mean, I could kind of map you through your 28 moments, which landed you at the dealer. But you've configured the car, you've downloaded the invoice price, you know the back-end rebates, you're so smart, you know how you're gonna land the deal, you're smarter than the salesperson will ever be. The dealership experience is actually a pretty poor one now because you got so smart in those 28 moments. So are your customers. And the partners they're using during those 28 moments becomes everything. Finally, the tech stack. This, I've been doing it 5 years now. It had 5 levels, then it had 6, then it had 7. This year has 11 islands of innovation. Many of these companies, many of the leaders on this tech stack are right outside. They're worthy of a conversation, every single one of them. Why? Because this tech stack, 223 companies, they were part of that raise last year. $3.1 billion of private equity went into these companies. And they're innovating in those 6 swim lanes to make our jobs easier, the automation, the data, the processes, the programs, all the things we need to drive forward. These are the companies that are innovating with us to make that happen. So to close off, we need your help. On your seat, you see a little card. Up here, you have a QR code, whichever way you want to grab it. But this room is literally the experts in ecosystem operations, in how you layer in your 7-layer stack to solve your problem and to do what you do better. We'd like to know from you in a survey, and we'd like to do this every year. So this is partnered with HubSpot, partnership leaders, the company that I work for, Canalys, and we'd love to build this as a base so we understand ourselves, we understand our industry, we can feed back to those great innovators that have become sponsors here. And again, as Asher and everyone said, we all grow this together. Thank you very much.
Jay, thank you so much for being with us since the beginning and encouraging us. In the beginning days, one of the most interesting things about Jay was I would get an email every 2 weeks or 3 weeks saying, hey, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And I'm like, Jay, we have actual 9-to-5 jobs too, But we've come a long way. All right, so I want to thank Chris, Tai, and Jay for spending some time with us this morning. I hope I answered the question of what is partnership leaders and what it means for you, what we've built together and where we're taking this. So thank you so much, gentlemen. And let's give them a big round of applause, and we can move to the next part of the program.